If mind control didn't work, they wouldn't have anyone issuing testimonials. There'd be no one that spent the $400 on the lifetime subscription to the course. And they wouldn't say, I believe this is one of the best investments I've ever made. But there are people all over the place that are saying this is one of the best investments I've ever made. You know, I believe it enough that I'm going to put my name out there in this testimonial with my email address. And there might be some that are AI generated, not real, but I bet most of them are real. Hey, this is, for those who are listening, this is a podcast that we're talking to each other in regard to a topic that's got general interest in the world. And I've heard a number of places, and as you get through it, hopefully you'll have some connection to it as well, especially since we all have brains. We are a daughter and her father working through topics in the world. And as we find them, we'll discuss it and try to identify tangents and connections to it, and connections to other parts of our lives. So hopefully that increases our knowledge, and that's our goal. And you can gain from that as well. Today's topic, since I already mentioned you have a brain, is mind control. So in mind control, how do we control that brain, or how should we control our brain? And what does mind control mean in the general context of our society? So that's where we start.
It's going to be a fun one, I think. Well, all of them have been fun, so this is going to be also fun.
and we've been thinking about this for a week or longer, but at least a week. Mind control, controlling something is a good thing. So I don't want to just start there. It's not a bad thing to control something, is it?
No, I think most people want to be in control of everything that they can be in control of.
Everything that's themselves. So what you own, you want to control it yourself. And the mind control, as you talk about that, who controls your mind? Sometimes you can say that you control your own mind when you're thinking. But there's been discussion recently on advertisements and algorithms that you don't really control your mind.
The concept of there is actually no free will, will.
On that idea that you can't direct yourself to do what you want to do, because you're only reacting to the world around you, to your environment. And if your environment is, as you scan videos or wherever you're looking, watching TV, watching YouTube videos, watching whatever you watch, there are ads in it. And the ads are telling you what to think. And they're telling you where your mind is supposed to follow. They're controlling your mind subconsciously, or what do they call that? When someone does it without your knowledge? There's a word.
Manipulatively? No. I mean, well, it is manipulative.
Manipulation, but it something. What is that word? Subliminal. Subliminal. That's what it is.
Subliminal messaging.
Right. Subliminal every advertisement is built to do subliminal messaging. That's what its idea is. It gives you some excitement. You're watching something that's interesting, and that says, this is interesting too, our product. So it subliminally tells you what to think. And is subliminal messaging controlling your mind? Are they attempting to do that?
Yes, they are attempting to control what you think about something.
Right. Subliminal advertising is mind control, I think, and that's the kind of mind control you don't like. We don't like. Is there any other kinds of mind control that we don't like?
Any other is what you're asking.
Other. Subliminal advertising. There's
Do we know
blatant
of any
manipulation.
other mind control? I think that's a good way to
introduce this. Yeah, who else attempts to control your mind?
Satan.
Could it be Satan? I don't know that we need to worry about that. Satan's not part of our society.
Okay.
Consider that God and Satan are out of the picture, but if God and Satan in there, God wants to control your mind, but he's doing it through maybe good means, and Satan's trying to make life just a pleasure center. And so that's how the control comes from Satan's side. So, but they use different actual things in our society. So when I'm trying to identify pieces of society that are trying to control our minds, the most blatant one recently is politics.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter which way. You could you could sit yourself on one side of politics or the other, and the other side is trying to control your mind. There's as much accusation from any position that you hold that the other position is trying to control you.
So does that not fit into the marketing subliminal messaging thing? The politics is just marketing one side over another, isn't it?
Whether the deep state or whether media control, the fake media is just advertising. I don't know if they're just marketing or advertising.
That's the whole purpose of, I think that's the whole purpose of debates and presidential speeches and like maybe at one point it was because they had a duty to keep their people informed, but now it feels like it's just, we're here to make you trust us more and also make you not trust the other side more. The people we don't like, we're going to try and get you to not like them too.
Well, I think the campaigns are built that way.
Aren't there like approval rating things during a presidential term, though?
Yes.
So that's very marketing, right?
Well, I just saw a news article, and is this trying to sway people's opinion? They said 76%, the mayor of the city of Chicago was being interviewed and said 76% of the people say the city would be better with a different mayor than it currently is. And he was saying, well, I'm just doing the job I was elected to do. So, but whatever it is, who's trying to control the mind is he's trying to put his position out as I'm the valid mayor and I'm doing the job I was elected to do. And I feel like I'm doing a good job. And the question from the reporter was, well, how can you feel good about that if 76% of the people in the survey say they don't believe you're doing a good job? I said, well, I just choose to look at it that way, and that's the way I have to look at it because it's my job.
Mm-hmm.
So is he supposed to feel, the news reporter don't think wanted to make him feel bad about his life or his job or his activities, but they're just stating a fact. The people that are answering the survey, 76% of them, did they mean to control his mind? Did they mean to change his mind?
I think people would hope if they're filling out a survey that someone would look at it and maybe change because of the results of the survey.
And that's kind of what we've seen happen with the mandate that Trump has been given in the country and saying, this is a new movement that's happening. And so what I just noticed yesterday in the news and the news ads that McDonald's has dropped its DEI mandates in its company models, I guess.
Okay.
So DEI is starting to, the wokeness, they talk about wokeness is falling away. DEI is falling away. For the last number of years, there's been people pushing against DEI and challenging that on a legal standpoint.
What is DEI?
And they've won those. Diversity, equity, inclusion, right?
Like the
diversity policies.
Requirements to have diversity in the workplace?
In their workplace, yeah. So they're promoting cross-cultural events and promoting you've got to have an equal amount of women and men in each position. I don't know.
Okay.
Whatever, quotas and all that. So they've stopped that, not on the fact that the law has changed or anything necessarily has changed. President Trump has not taken office yet, but because he was, and that's, consequently Mexico and Canada and everyone talking to President Trump now, incoming president-elect, as though he's in charge now, as though the change has already taken place. So there is that change. So the question with this conversation, was the world mind controlled based on that?
Yes.
Were they?
They were influenced. Influencing with statements and things like that, mind control.
And we've talked about that before with persuasion. Are you allowed to persuade? And is it called mind control if you're persuading someone? You have reasons for it. You're going to structure the argument. You're going to identify all the strong points behind it. Are you attempting to mind control them?
Yeah, you're attempting to persuade. And if you know the tactics of persuasion, the principles of persuasion, and you you know how you can do a better job at persuasion, then are you control though? Mind control. That feels a little bit more solid, like you actually have a hold and you're making something happen instead of using these tactics,
influencing it,
and making it more likely to happen, but there's still a chance that it might not.
Yeah. It's like the mentalists. And what we're talking about right here is the soft side of mind control, maybe, because a mentalist that does his job right can make you say what he wants you to say, just by making suggestions and leading the conversation. He can give you the right answer, the answer that he, and they do that all the time where they write it in a book or have it inside of a can they prepared a week ago. You're going to say exactly what he told you because he led it up with the story beforehand and the feeling and everything else. The only option you're going to have is to think of an orange kangaroo in Denmark or whatever. And that one was and that's a little trick that you learn in that mentalist stuff.
And hypnotists.
And hypnosis. Yeah. They can hypnotize you to do certain things.
But they can only hypnotize you if you are open to being hypnotized. They do a screening at the beginning of the show. They have all of these volunteers on the stage, and they do a test, and then they dismiss the ones that didn't pass the open to hypnosis test. And then they know the show's going to be good because all of these other people passed the test. They can be hypnotized. They're open to suggestion. Yeah.
Accept suggestions. So is their mind more, because they're open to suggestion, open to hypnotism, are they more open to being controlled by someone else? And the hypnotist does control them, right?
Yeah, in ways.
I think it is. Mm-hmm. They're saying, fold this up like it's very important or whatever. I don't know. What you're holding is $100 bill. Mm-hmm. And you believe it. That's what it is.
So the people that didn't pass the test, does that mean they're less likely to be persuaded, controlled? I don't know if there's actual correlation.
Or duped, or taken advantage of.
Maybe.
Scammed.
I mean,
are they more able to be scammed?
On the face of it, it seems like that's true, but I haven't read any research on that.
If hypnotism works on a certain person, then subliminal advertising is going to work just as well, or maybe better, on that person because it's something they're looking for, and an ad comes up. Well, of course, I need to have that car because that's the best model car. The ad just told me, and it told me with all the right subliminal messages on it. Though maybe there's laws against subliminal advertising. I think there are.
Okay.
The typical in the 60s, whenever they'd show in movie theaters the picture of a one screen of a Coke and a hot dog, and everyone magically went and bought Cokes and hot dogs in the next few minutes. Mm-hmm. Because right in the middle of the screen, no one consciously was aware of it. That was my first understanding of subliminal advertising. I think they stopped that. You can't do that way anymore.
Okay.
You can't throw up something like that. So I believe that's illegal. It may be illegal. I don't know.
If it was your country, you would make it illegal.
If it was my country. So that's the soft side of mind control. People are trying to control it. Okay. The actual thing I want to talk about is mind control yourself. Can you control your own mind? And a couple of examples of that recently that I want to talk either both together or differently is there's the show Limitless. Went back to that idea, the idea that your synapses, we're using 10% of our brain. If you could just use 70% or 90% of your brain, you're going to control your mind better than anyone else. And you'll be able to see things that no one else sees and piece things together in milliseconds that will benefit you and your life.
Now, we did mention that in an earlier conversation, but I added a disclaimer on that episode in the show notes that we do actually use all of our brain all the time. Like, there's no parts of our brain that never get used.
Right. There's not a bunch of gray matter sitting there that's just gray.
Right.
When you're activating your brain, the encephalograms, whoever watches that, every part of your brain triggers.
Yes. So what I think maybe what we could say then is we're not utilizing to the highest capacity our brain, maybe. Where our brain is a muscle, is what they say. I'm trusting that that's actually true. And so you can exercise it with, logic puzzles and activity, reading, watching, like thinking.
Okay, so let's get into mind control. So the Silva method, mind control, that's where they use the term from the early 60s. I think it's Jose Silva that started that system. He developed the mind control method with young kids, with his kids and his grandkids. I think it was his children, actually, in school in the early 60s.
How do you spell that? Oh, the Silva
Silva.
mind control. Okay. So that is different than the Sylvan
learning system.
Yeah. Okay.
Sylvan learning system is a school. That's a educational system.
Yes. All right.
Mind control talks about specifically the way the mind works with alpha waves, or the waves of the brain. And he said he determined when he was just first testing this out in the early 60s and developing this plan, he was an engineer, electrical engineer. And he was doing this, didn't know anything about psychology, but was just doing it by way of circuits and engineering. I think he was an electrical engineer. But he wasn't a psychologist. Comes from electrical background, the way I understood it.
Yeah.
But the waves have been identified as, when we're alive and active and talking, that we're operating in our beta waves. Beta waves are between, these are the numbers, 14 to 40 megahertz. So they're that fast, 14 to 40. There's gamma waves that are above it. If you're under a high stress situation, or you're really focusing, or you're major excited about something, you're above 40.
Mm-hmm.
That's into the gamma waves. They call it gamma. So it's beta and then gamma. The alpha wave is from roughly 7 to 14. An alpha wave is right as you're coming out of sleep. It's the sleep awake type thing. You can do it. You can be conscious in alpha, and it's what meditation tries to get you to. So, and that's where they say you can use more of your brain if you get it to the wavelengths slower. And it is what you were saying. It's the percentage of the neurons that you're actually using, the synapses that you're controlling. And I want to take a quote from the end of Limitless, where the main character in the movie, the billionaire that was there that said, I bought up all this drug, and now you're going to have to take it from us. He was running for Senate and said, so I'm going to bribe you and buy you in the pocket, because I'm the only one that has this drug. I control it now. I controlled it for the world. I'm the only one that has the control. I broke down your shop this morning. And so then the guy, the main character, takes him outside and says, you don't have any power here. Don't you think that after doing this for so many years, that the synapses have connected to my brain, and I don't need the drug anymore? I'm operating this way. I see everything.
Huh.
And he explained it. So he trained his brain. What you were saying, you can exercise, you can train it. And so that's the premise of the movie, anyway, is that you can train yourself into it. And it was easier for him because he had a crutch. He had that ability to do it quickly.
Okay.
And then the synapses just get used to being used, and they strengthen. And then the more you strengthen the synapses in your brain and the connections, the neurons, they communicate faster and quicker. And you attain that limitlessness. Any other questions about that? I don't want to just keep lecturing. This isn't fun.
You have I didn't watch the movie. I know I've seen a few of the episodes. I think it's on our in our home TV library, actually.
Okay.
But I didn't look into it at all. Like I'm aware of it.
Okay.
But
you're aware of it.
I didn't remind myself.
That's really all it takes is general awareness, and the point that you can exercise your brain, and through exercise it can develop stronger, more strength.
Right.
And I think that's information everywhere.
Yeah. These brain waves, alpha waves and beta waves and gamma waves, right?
Yeah, gamma is the highest, and you can't live very long in gamma waves. That's what gets you worn out. You get burned out on gamma waves. Beta, you can live in beta. Alpha is just the first phase. It's the level. Then you've got theta, below alpha, and then delta.
Okay. So delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma. That's the order from lowest to highest?
Yeah, from the lowest to highest. from the lowest activity. Delta waves are 0.5 to 4 megahertz, and that 4 is that's your deep sleep. That's when you're not doing anything. Delta, your brain is barely moving. It's doing its repairs, but that's it. Theta is the middle sleep. You can be awakened from theta sleep. You generally can't be awakened from delta sleep. And that that happens early in the sleep cycle. I've studied sleep cycles to see when that happens usually. What Jose Silva said you could do is you can go into these cycles. You can get to theta while you're conscious and just slow your brain down. And that's what meditation tries to do. And all the courses that are out there, there's a number of courses, and they're all over the place. I don't want to pinpoint one because there are a number of them that you can pay for their lifelong membership, and you can learn meditation from any number of places. So meditation can get you into down to that theta level. Maybe you can meditate all the way down to delta, but I'm not sure. I didn't necessarily read that. But I was wondering how your mind control, if you're in theta or alpha, and how we normally go to sleep, we're not in control of that. We don't have control of our sleep, of those phases.
Yeah, and can you control it while you're asleep? Like, is that even physically possible, or metaphysically
there's a term for that. There's a term for that, and I actually tested it this week, and I think it works.
Did you actually do it? You've made it?
Yes, I made it work. So lucid dreaming is what it's called.
Okay.
Lucid dreaming. So you're actually asleep. You go into these states in sleep, and you rest and you sleep and consciously know that you're dreaming. That's what lucid dreaming is.
Did you have to practice a lot to get it there, or did you just?
Yeah. Well,
tell me the steps. Tell me your steps.
I've practiced for years doing lucid dreaming, and primarily it's writing it down when you get back up. That's the first step. The first step that I think in lucid dreaming, and I don't know that I haven't done any studies. This is just my own study.
So first step is dream journal.
That's what I was looking at it to see when the first time I put it in this book, February of 21. But I've written dreams down, but I put it in this book starting in 21. So 3 years ago.
Okay.
If I had a dream that I remembered and I thought it was important, I would write it down. And then if I had a puzzle, something I was struggling with. And so I took a question this week to my dream, and I got an answer. I consciously said, this is the reason I'm going to sleep. I'm going to go to sleep so I can try to lucid dream on this topic.
Did you test whether the answer is accurate? Did you go with a math problem?
Is valid?
Or was it like
No.
life?
It's actual.
Eat chocolate for breakfast or a muffin? Like,
no, it's nothing.
Tell me.
I think it has to have import. It can't be silly. And I think
you can't
in the
test
religious standpoint, do not test the Lord your God. That type idea.
Okay.
You're not going with a test that could happen one way or the other, and it doesn't matter. If you're going to really look for an answer in something, it has to be something that matters. So it's got to be something that's going to be useful or worthwhile.
Okay.
A trivial test.
So you took a worthwhile question to sleep.
Right.
Whether you were sleeping on the couch or in bed or in the car while you were driving.
It takes some time while I was driving. Yeah, get into theta state while you're driving down the freeway. Yeah, so the question was just how to deal with something. If you got, it's kind of the idea. I don't want to give this specific, there was a specific issue and situation, but in general, trying to persuade someone. So you've got a standpoint that you believe in, that you want to accomplish, and you want to persuade them. And I said, how is the best way to persuade them? And there were 3 things that came out. It might be interesting to describe that.
Okay.
What came out in the dream, because it's not something that I came up with, and I don't know that I could even connect it somewhere else. It's something that came from the dream state, from this theta state. And that's what they say, the alpha and theta state give you more creativity. That's where the genius lies, the ability to focus for a time. So I was focused as I fell asleep, and I could feel myself falling asleep. And then I continued asking the question, how's the best way to persuade the point of view that I have in this situation? And it can work for anything. First thing I saw was a pair of boots. And I looked at it and I said, I'm recognizing boots. And so consciously I was recognizing the boots in my dream. I said, there's boots there. And I recognized it, and I said, they're facing away from me. So I'm seeing them, and I'm seeing that they're facing away.
Are they cowboy boots or combat boots
Work boots. They were
snow
more
boots?
cowboy work type boots.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I saw that my legs were slipped into them. So I had my feet and my legs in the boots, and it was my legs because it was in front of me and it was facing away from me. And I wasn't standing, I was sitting. It was obvious I was sitting in the dream. And so I identified these things. And so you identify where you are in your dream, what's happening, and then you want to say what else is there. You know, where does it go now? Where did you take me? So the dream said, and the person I'm talking to or about is in front of me. So I know that they're there. So they're in front of my boots. And so what I surmised from that, and I don't know that I did this in the dream, but as I was contemplating it afterwards, the boots are the work. That's the work. It's the principles that I'm trying to promote.
Okay.
You put the principles between you and the person you're trying to achieve. You're not going after them to say, come over here, I want to show you these principles, and put your arm on their shoulder. You're going to stand behind the principles, put the principles between you as you're discussing them. So that's the way I saw that dream. If you're going to try to promote something, you got to have the principles sit there in front of you, and not actively. You're sitting behind it. So you're going to sit behind the principle, relaxed, not trying to force anything, but just saying, yes, these are the boots. This is the work that we have in front of us, and it's between us. And then the time to achieve it was the next step. And it came to me kind of like a cycle. There's a cycle in the receiver side. And there's a time to approach that person, and there's a time not to approach. And you've got to wait. That's why you're sitting. You're not actively waiting for it in antsy at the gate, ready to pound through. As soon as the gate opens, you see it, but then you're still just relaxed, showing the principles, as opposed to pouncing on them with it. And in that second part is watch for that cycle that they go through, because people will be in a receptive cycle or a anxious cycle. They'll be upset. And I did relate it to menstruation. Every 30 days, something happens. And so you can't, it's harder to talk to someone at that time frame. And I don't know, I've never had it. Is that true?
You couldn't relate it to like day and night. That's a continuous cycle that's always there. It's a menstruation, huh? Yeah. So the way menstruation works is your
you can explain that to me.
Hormone levels go up and down, and it's about a 28 to 30 day cycle, right? Some people are much longer than that. Like my cycle was 45 days for a couple of years. I think it's come back to closer to 30 lately, because I think my nutrition is better now. So I think that's why my cycle is back to the normal length. No.
Oh, it comes back to normal when you're healthy.
Yeah. When I was malnourished consistently over a long period of time, my cycle was longer. Like people don't what I learned in a college history class, that when there's periods of famine, there's less birth because menstruation doesn't happen as regularly.
Okay.
And so they have less kids, or the elephants have less elephant babies, or things like that, that when you're not getting enough nutrition, it's a bad time for birth rates. So hormones, estrogen and all of that up and down. And so that all affects how your brain works. And so like if you recognize that you're in a low thinking hormone, well, I don't know thinking hormone, but like when you're in, if you recognize that, you can take steps to be better, to not be so cranky. And I mean, that's what they say is PMS. You're going through your PMS part of your cycle. And
so PMS actually happens.
But it's just,
right?
Yeah, it's your hormones are in a different balance than they were before. And so you've just got to compensate for that in some way.
Yeah, if you want to compensate. But if you're just acting life normally, you're not going to even pay attention. You're going to be cranky, and you're not going to care why. You're just going to be like,
I don't know why I'm upset right now. But I know I'm upset.
Don't talk to me.
Yeah.
And so you need to, as the one promoting that, so that's what I came up in the dream. If you're going to promote, you need to pay attention to their cycle, whatever it is. If it's menstruation or if it's anything else, if there's any cycle, you don't approach them when they're in a angry or agitated cycle or anxiety ridden.
And you absolutely
depressed.
Don't ask them Where are you in your menstruation cycle?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. When was your last period? I don't know, 7 years ago, maybe 12? Well, okay. What does that mean now?
What does that even mean? But you can recognize if it's near a meal time. Have they had lunch yet? Are they in that receptive cycle? People are less likely to want to talk about anything when they're hungry.
Yeah. And maybe the indication from that, the biggest part of that dream was to put the principles between you. Don't talk about them. Don't talk about you. Don't talk about the issue. Talk about the principle that you're trying to promote. And that's what it is. It's the principle. So if there's something you're promoting it because you can identify the principle of it. And maybe that's how you check their willingness, is you just lightly sitting down comfortably with the work between you, show the work between you. Say, here, look at my boots. What do you think about them? And they'll say, I don't want to think about those boots right now. Not just shut up. And then, that's not the time. Don't stand up.
But it's a cycle, which means it'll come around to the time.
Yeah, it'll come around. So you just patiently wait, ready to work. And how did I put it at the end as I closed out my thing? Bide your time, sit comfortably, knowing that you can work when it's the right time, and then work. So sit comfortably, knowing you can work at any time. Prepare. And as you're prepared, the boots are there in front of you. They got them on. You're just not standing up, pressing them forward yet. When it's time to press forward, get up and work.
Okay.
So that was mind controls. And I think it kind of relates to the control that you have of what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. It's your mind control means to control everything that all your activities, your actions. You want to control your actions.
Would you say, I know this has nothing to do with mind control, but would you say this dream that you had might be a vision? Like, would you classify it as a vision or just a dream?
Well, yeah. Well, it was a visual. I could say it was a vision. Could you say it was inspiration or revelation?
Revelation.
Words.
Yeah.
Inspiration, revelation, visions, and the mind control discussions about trying to learn more or be more intuitive. That's a big word in the mind control and the meditation set. And that's intuition. It's revelation. It's vision. It's all kinds of things. So I think they're all the same thing. Yes. I think that all rolls together to describe the same event of trying to lucid dream.
Yeah.
I've done lucid dreaming with a number of other things too, and found out, there's a lot of stuff written in my book. It would be interesting for someone if they could read my writing.
So the interesting thing for me right now is that I just finished listening to a podcast about communication between nonverbal autistic people. They have to have a language, though, of some sort. They have to be able to communicate with, in order for you to know that they have a telepathic connection with someone, is they have to be able to tell you in some way. And so what they have to do is they have to learn spelling. And that's, pointing on a board with letters and stuff, that they've got to be able to tell us verbal people that
they comprehended something.
Yeah, that they're telepathic. And it's 10 episodes. The podcast is called The Telepathy Tapes, and this is happening all over the world. People that are nonverbal they can read each other's minds, and they can sometimes read the mind of, I guess they can read, depends on where they are, I guess. I don't know. Some of them can read one person's mind, like a very trusted family member, like their mother or something like that. They can read their mind, but they can't read other people's minds in the room. But I think there has to be a level of trust between the people to be able to read their mind. I don't know. It's very interesting. They talked about at the next to last episode, I think, they talked about the science behind this, and theta waves and gamma waves and alpha and beta and things like that. And then they also discussed lucid dreaming and how this one kid's mom was able to is able to telepathically connect with their nonverbal kid through lucid dreaming. She's better at lucid dreaming, and now she can actually have a conversation with her kid in the lucid dream, because there's this whole underlying realm of consciousness that all of them are connected to, and we're just not, us verbal people, we're not connected to that. But the way we get connected is through lucid dreams.
Okay. Well, through getting to that, and in lucid dreaming, you're in the alpha state or the theta state. REM sleep can happen in either of those states, the way I've understood it. And REM sleep, when you're dreaming, rapid eye movement and dreaming, happens in those higher things. It doesn't happen in delta. It doesn't happen all the way down. When you're fully repairing in deep sleep, you're not dreaming, you're not lucid, you don't have any conscious control. But you can take conscious control of your theta and your alpha levels.
Okay.
So, and one way they said to do that, another tip on how to do lucid dreaming is, they said, wake yourself up and don't stay awake very long. So have an alarm ring and wake you up, and then go right back to sleep, but consciously try to connect back to your dream when you do that. So set an alarm at 3:10 or 1:50 in the morning or something, after you've had some time to do some deep sleep, so that you got your rest. And the later part of the morning, practice that. Try to remember and connect with what you're dreaming. So, but immediately, so alarm yourself awake and then go right back to sleep.
Okay.
To do that. Or if you get up to something wakes you up, when you go back to bed at 2:30 or 4 o'clock, whenever, just practice on saying, I want to pay attention to what my dream was. Put it together. Or else, if you don't remember it at all, but any time that I wake up knowing what a dream was, I do try to, because you wake up before you wake up. There's times, 3 o'clock or whatever and so when that happens, I try to identify the dream, then I try to consciously, then I've done that for a number of years, tried to consciously stay in the dream, and it works quite often.
Yeah.
I can stay in the dream and move around inside of it and ask other questions and try to see something else and identify it. So it's fun.
Yeah. So controlling your mind in the sense of controlling where your mind goes, like being conscious of what it's doing.
What your mind is being handed. I think that's part of this mind control and intuition. Mind control from the Silva method, and the other thing is saying you want to increase your intuition. You want to increase your creativity, the ability to focus on something and gain insight. And they said Einstein and Tesla, some of the, what they call those when they say, this is why I did this, what's why I love this system, testimonials. Some of the testimonials I listened to in regard to these systems said, it's clear Einstein and Nikola Tesla operated in this realm. And now you just described how they did it and how you get to that realm. You may even say Elon Musk now, with everything he's been able to accomplish and how his mind works, he may be in that realm more than the rest of us. So genius, it's tapping the genius of your brain.
There is
and you learn that by practice.
What am I feeling? I'm feeling like this is controversial. It's not provable.
It's quackery.
It's
quackery.
Yeah, it's not something that you can prove with scientific research
and there is
studies.
A scientist. I listened to a video from this guy, James Randi. You happen to know that name?
I don't know that name.
Randi. He's a comedian, but he's also I don't know what he does primarily.
He looks like
a stage magician, author, and scientific skeptic. He's a scientific skeptic.
Okay.
Popularly.
He looks like a Amish guy.
Santa Claus. Looks like Santa Claus.
Well, maybe Santa Claus.
So, but he's had this thing, if you think that you have telepathic powers or psychic powers, or you're operating this, he's got $1 million award. He says, I put it out for 20 years. It's been out there. No one has come forward to say, let's test this scientifically.
Okay.
No one. He says that's speaking something in itself, that from early 2000s to now, there's no one that's tried to come and prove to him that they can do psychic things. So you're talking about the telepathy stuff. I mean, for $1 million, and maybe $1 million isn't a lot. to anybody. But someone should say, let's try it. Let's test it.
Well,
But he feels it's all quackery. He also feels that homeopathics is the quackery as well.
yeah.
So he talks about all that, taking it down to the essence. Take anything down to the essence, it's not there anymore. There's no energy moving around it. Don't worry, that's just, it can't be proved. So he's a scientific skeptic to that point. None of this can be proved.
Right.
Therefore, it doesn't exist.
That's interesting. He's written a lot of books about that kind of stuff, it looks like.
And he hasn't been disproved and everything. He hasn't been shut up or proved that you're thinking. No one's persuaded him to think differently than he is.
Yeah.
And his whole system. So that's fine. And I don't know how many people he's persuaded to think the other way. He's written the books.
Uh-huh.
Who knows? But still, the telepathy tapes, they still exist. I mean, there's people operating in all these realms. The homeopathy certainly still exists. Mind control, these meditation groups, they all still exist. They're doing great.
Right. They still exist. And I suppose, would they weed themselves out if something wasn't working?
But like natural selection, if something isn't working, the economy just lets it disappear.
Right.
Like these, and that's a natural selection type idea. If mind control didn't work, they wouldn't have anyone issuing testimonials. There'd be no one that spent the $400 on the lifetime subscription to the course.
Right.
And they wouldn't say, I believe this is one of the best investments I've ever made. But there are people all over the place that are saying this is one of the best investments I've ever made. I believe it enough that I'm going to put my name out there in this testimonial with my email address. And there might be some that are AI generated, not real, but I bet most of them are real.
Okay.
These are real people that went to seminars and understood it. And that's what Jose Silva said. He says millions of people, thousands of people when he was alive, he trained all kinds of people on this stuff, and they testify that it works, that they're happy they learned it.
Right.
Okay. Maybe we've left some loose hanging ends there. I think there's something we left hanging. You talked about something that I don't think we really covered. You moved to telepathy.
Yes. Was it before I moved to telepathy?
My thought, no, it was that telepathy idea. I mean, my thought on that was the subconscious, Napoleon Hill statement. We've talked about this a few times, that he promoted that subconscious minds talk to each other.
Yeah.
And we are all telepathic. We all have that capacity if you focus on it. And that's what mind control is saying. Get up that level so you can focus on it. And even some of these mind control systems, I can't remember what one of the training systems are now, but they talk about how to, energy healing is part of this work as well. You can benefit someone even if they're not in your presence. That the energy, that you telepathically, somehow the mind's connected under these alpha and theta levels to everyone else.
The last episode of this Telepathy Tapes podcast, they're going to do a second season. So I don't know that they went into it thinking there was going to be multi-season, but the last one of this first season, episode 10, is words of these nonverbal people. They were asked some questions and then they'd send in their responses, and she used some of their responses for this last episode. One thing that a lot of them said was, this is something that everyone can do, and we're actually going to evolve to where everyone will be able to do this. It's part of the evolution of humans, is eventually, they say that eventually everyone's going to be able to know
right
the thoughts of everyone else,
and
I guess.
That was my thought too. If they are doing that and they can prove it, and they go to James Randi and say, yeah, give me that $1 million because I can prove this works with deaf people and mute people, that telepathy works, that if one person can do it, if one part of a human being can do it, then all humans can do it. We all have the same gray matter brain connections. We have too much noise. And that's why meditation works. Meditation tries to eliminate the noise so you can focus on the thing that's important. Control your mind so much that you can get into the creative mode only and let everything else go. And so that's quieting the mind, quieting the noise around you, the distraction, the video, even quieting the audio and letting you just be in your dream state and let it teach you what you want to just try to recognize and pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can control that by learning how to quiet your thoughts, quiet everything.
Learning how to limit the distractions. That's kind of the general rule that I see. But that's telepathy. So maybe we've covered enough of that. I think that's what I wanted to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that bothers me about this, and you used a word, is it illegal, or it feels bad, feels something, at least stigmatic. There's a stigma to it. Controversial. If you start talking about it in public, people think you're weird. You're one of those tie-dyed people.
Yeah, teachers have lost their jobs because they're teaching nonverbal autistic kids and they're recognizing this, but when they say something about it, they lose their job. Psychologists who are interested in researching this lose their license.
Because it's a taboo subject. You're not going to talk about telepathy.
Yeah, the only accepted theory is materialism, and that's just where it's at right now. There's no...
Yeah, so hopefully that opens up too as part of the cancel culture. It's part of the cancel culture then in that respect.
Mm.
Yeah. If you start talking about these ethereal things, we're going to cancel you. You can't have your license anymore.
Yeah.
The thing that bothered me with the advertisements for the mind control method, the Silva method even, their advertisements come out and they say, this lady won 5 trips to Europe and has won the lottery 7 times based on using these principles.
Yeah, so it's very profitable. They're saying you are going to be the luckiest person in the world if you can only learn how to do this. Like, this is how you're going to get rich, right?
Right. And it's magically going to fall to you, and you're going to pick the right lottery numbers. You're going to know what the numbers are if you learn this method, because your theta brain is going to tell you what they are.
So why is that not? Why do you not like that?
Because I don't believe that works. From what I said, you can't put something trivial to the system. It's not important. I'm skeptical with James Randi in regard to that you can select or win a prize based on your mental connection to it. The law of attraction, and that's what they're kind of pointing at as well, is if you're thinking about something, you think about it correctly in the right wave of your brain, you're going to attract that to you. The law of attraction doesn't bring you lottery winnings or windfalls. The law of attraction brings you opportunities that you can take advantage of, insight that allows you to advance. But your advancement is, Nikola Tesla wasn't just handed everything. He developed it. He developed it as he was open. Einstein developed the theories based on his openness to it and his ability to see it and recognize it. It's not magic. It's magic, and of course that we've talked about magic in the past, just something we don't understand. Telepathy is magic because we don't understand it.
It's not trickery.
It's not trickery. It's not just a subterfuge, subliminal advertising and manipulation. It's not any of that. It's actual, this is the way it works. And tap into this. So you can tap into it. But the advertisements say, if you learn this method, pay your $400, get this, you're going to win every lottery. You can win all the Powerballs because you'll get all the answers. That's not what it does for you.
Okay.
So it's misleading advertisement.
Yeah.
To say you can win 5 trips to Europe.
Right. I haven't seen any videos for this thing.
Okay.
I haven't seen any advertisements for the Silva method because I didn't know about it until just now. Yeah. But in my mind, I'm imagining that if there's YouTube videos, they're going to have like neon colors on a black background, and it's going to be the like electrical shockwave things, not shockwaves, electrical like lightning bolt things from a brain, and then like it's going to be like AI generated visuals or the kind of things that would make like a 12-year-old just stare at it and be like, whoa, this is so cool. Or like if you're on marijuana or something, if you're high and you're watching this, you might just look at it, It just mesmerizing visuals is what I imagine their videos would be like.
Kind of like the pre-hypnosis status. They're trying to hypnotize you with
Yeah, maybe not necessarily hypnotize though. It's that genre of video though, where it's got a deep voice guy and he's saying, the mind can do more than you've ever imagined before. And if you would only just unlock the powers with this method, like, and then there's like a person being zoomed out and they're in a big field and then it zooms in and now you can see inside their eye and I don't know.
yeah.
Anyway, that's what I'm imagining. It's like I haven't looked at it. But I don't like those kind of videos because it feels very manipulative and like they know what they're doing with these videos.
And subliminal.
They're trying
to
get you to think things with the visuals.
And people advertising doesn't have to do with the system, but it's just the advertisement in the system that I think that's what bothers me most about it.
The advertising.
They're not advertising to say you can be a better person than you are. They're advertising to say you can gain windfalls.
Yeah.
If you just learn this tactic.
They have this whole so I went to the website and they've got this scrolling bar at the bottom. It says, New Year flash sale, flat 60% off. Use the code. Very flashy. And there's like this meditating person with their chakras all lit up and this tree of life behind them. And yeah, this is very much what I was imagining.
Subliminal, right?
Yeah.
Trying to show you your life is going to be so amazing when all these magic things happen to you. And really, that system you're looking at, what's the name called?
Silvamethod.com.
Is that silvamethod.com? That's themselves.
Yeah, and all of the people in all of these images are the most beautiful people they could find. Like, there's no ugly people on this page.
I think there's no less than 4 different people that train the Silva method, each under their own system and charge their own fees. And
Jose Silva, he's the ugliest guy on this whole page of images.
Yeah, and he's passed away a while ago. So
yeah, in 99, I think, is what I saw. They had to put him on the front of this because he created it, but it's...
Right.
This is...
He's the linchpin on it, that he's not the sales force anymore.
Right. So it has to make money. They can't... What is the thing about finding your passion in life? It has to be something that you're good at. It has to be something...
the hedgehog principle.
Yeah, but then whatever...
That has an economic engine. Has to have an economic engine to provide you.
It has to make
the ability to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're really putting a lot of money into the visual advertising of this system.
Yeah. And they're reaching for the millennials that are interested in that, or whatever they are, whatever generation it is that's looking for games, the gaming side. You can game this and get everything you want.
Complete course. Doesn't even have the price. You have to click. Oh, here it is. Only $300.
You have to go into this. How much is it?
Only $300. Down from $750 for their New Year sale.
Yeah, there we go. 60% off.
Yes.
And that's, of course, a lifetime connection. So you pay them once, but they're looking for all those one-time buys.
Yep. If I had 10 people buy something at $300 a day, or even a week, that would be a pretty good. I just need 10 people to buy something for $300 every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if there's a way to move through something like that without all of the flashy advertising.
Yeah, I believe there is, because, Silva wrote the book. There is a mind control book, the Silva method. And you can read about it. You don't need to go through the guided discussions. I mean, I've had the book. I've seen the book. I don't have it, but, there's the techniques that he has. You're just connecting different ways to get into these levels. You can do meditation. You don't need to be guided through meditation by a yogi or whoever. You don't need to go to the big retreats for a week to learn meditation. You can start meditating. You can advance a little bit more. Jose Silva had no one to train him on this stuff. He just started thinking about it. and he'd start getting to that level, and it trained him, let's try this next. And he tried this next, and it works better. And so he's down to the method. You can find the methods. So paying for it, I think, just gives you more of a crutch that you're not going to do it. If you pay for it, it means you're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't trust yourself to learn about it yourself. And maybe with that attitude, even if they hand it to you, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah, with that attitude, right? You have to be open. That's the signal that something isn't true, I think. I mean, that's what a lot of people say. Materialism people and skeptics and stuff. It's like, if you have to believe it before you see it, then that's not a proof. That's a sign that this is something sketchy.
If you have to take it on belief.
On faith, on...
Yeah, well, we'll have to talk about that at some point when we discuss truth and what that actually is.
Yeah. But that's the thing is the Silva method, is it something that only works if you think it's going to work? If you think it's not going to work, then it's not going to work?
No. So I want to battle back against that thought, because it's not magic. If it were magic and you had to believe it to see it, then, that's the description. I would agree that, as far as truth, if it's just magic and it's going to happen if you believe it, your perception will bring that about. Mm-hmm. This isn't the case, I don't believe. I believe that if you've learned the principles, what my stance is on this is, if you're not willing to learn the principles, if you want to just have a magic thing appear in front of you, it's not going to happen.
Right. If you just want to win the lottery, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
But you have to want to have that
and
connection.
if you just pay the $400,
yeah.
If you pay the $400 to see that magic happen in your life, you're not going to see it. You're going to go through and you won't be able to write the testimonial. You have to go into it saying, there are principles here, and I know there are physical things I can do and actual mental exercises I can do. And if I do them, I will get it. You don't have to go through the guided exercise to do those mental exercises. You can learn piece by piece just from what's written online. You can't get into the guided mental stuff, but there's enough. That's the reason AI is helping us and all this library in our pocket. You can read enough, and if you just learn one thing, learn a technique and practice it and internalize it, make it become you, you're going to get more out of it than if you paid the $300 for the course.
Okay, so it works whether you believe it or not.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what you identified as truth. If it's true, if it does work, whether you believe it or not, if you can physically do something and it has like lucid dreaming, I could talk about it, but until you do it, you don't know that it works. Right. That you can do it. But you have to do it. And then once you do it, you'll say, well, there's some reality here. Now you see that there's more truth in that. It's more real. This James Randi says, I haven't seen anyone try to prove it to me. No one's been able to prove to me. So he's still a skeptic on many things. I don't know if there's anything that he's changed his mind. Maybe he's been proven something. Mm-hmm. That'd be a question to ask him, I guess. Is there anything that you've thought that further information has had you change your mind?
Yeah.
As a skeptic.
Well, I bet his income depends on him not believing, remaining a skeptic, I bet. He's been so public about it with all these books that he's written. It'd be silly of him to say,
but
actually.
The other thing that would be silly is if he actually gained more information and changed his mind on something, if he didn't tell about it. If he didn't say, this, I agree, I was skeptical on this and now I'm not anymore.
Yeah. I
agree, this thing works. This happens and I've got proof of it, and here's my testimonial of that idea. Mm-hmm. If he is just as shallow as that and wrote the 10 books and wrote all stuff and says, I've got to be a skeptic no matter what, mm-hmm. He's less believable.
But you wouldn't know that. Nobody would know that.
I wouldn't know that unless I haven't read his books. I mean, you have to read it.
Yeah.
Someone like, other person we talk about all the time out in public, Jordan Peterson, he's talked about how his mind has been changed over things. Uh-huh. And he's struggling with this problem and this thing, and now his mind, what he thought a year ago, isn't the same as he's thinking now. Anyone who's reasonably looking at the world and not just trying to sell books. And if Randy is just trying to sell books, then I don't like him at all.
Yeah.
But if he's trying to learn and he's growing as anyone else who is studying things and working on something, you're going to make adjustments. Your brain's going to change. Brain's going to change as you move. And if you're in control of it, that's what we're trying to do, is be in control of our changes of our brains instead of letting someone else control it for us.
Okay.
So just the fact that James Randi says homeopathics is quackery and it doesn't work at all, it doesn't make any sense, doesn't mean that it doesn't work at all. It means he believes that that's his statement, and it's fine. He can have it. I have another statement. I have another belief.
Yeah.
And proof and testimony of it. So that's where I stand.
Okay.
In regard to that, and everything I have a testimony of is because I've thought it through. I'm not trying to sell anything on anybody on anything. And I don't know anything, consequently.
Uh-huh.
I've not written any books. No one's paying me for my opinion.
Right.
Generally.
So on the other side of mind control, having your mind accidentally be controlled in a way that you don't want it to be, how do you think you can keep from being controlled? Like there's the I'm going to intentionally control my mind, that side of it, but then I'm going to intentionally keep my mind from being controlled against my will. What do you do there?
The only word that comes to mind, and I've seen it a few places, is awareness. I believe awareness protects your mind.
Being aware that it's possibly happening, it could happen.
Yeah. Who was it? I think labeling something. If you can label it, it doesn't have control over you anymore. And that came from, Chris Voss. You know Chris Voss. The book is called Don't Compromise. Got to remember what the book is. The name of this book. I got it right here. If it'll just come up, then I don't ruin my... Never Split the Difference. That's Chris Voss's book.
Okay.
Never Split the Difference. He's talking about people who will have control or power in negotiating situations. Someone who's trying to gain control over you. If you label what they're doing, if you become aware of it, it loses its power. And he's talking about that in negotiations and in communications.
Okay.
Just label you're trying, I don't know what, I don't want to use an example.
You don't have to tell them that you're giving it a label, but you give it a label in your mind maybe. And
yeah, at least
you're like, oh, I see I went to a timeshare presentation last month and I had noticed.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I know. It was the worst vacation we've ever taken. So it was a bad idea in the first place.
Well, there we go. Yeah. You had to spend the 3 days there.
We had to, yes. But in the presentation, the lady was doing things like, okay, when I say this, you say that. And then she said the word, and everybody was like, so like when I say
responded
vacation, you say happy, vacation, happy. And it was like, oh yeah, that's a manipulation tactic. That she's very good at sales. She's doing all of the things,
Well, she's very bad at sales. She's very good at manipulation. She's tried to learn. She's learned the manipulation parts. And immediately that turned you off.
It turned me off because I was aware of it. I think right. There's actually probably half of the room actually signed up because
were they excited?
Yeah, they were like happy.
That's crazy.
They were like, yay.
It's crazy that there are people that actually do that. And really, I think maybe they were plans. They were just trying to get you.
It could be that
you didn't
too.
fall for it.
Right.
Yeah. That's because people aren't that stupid. And maybe they are. Maybe don't have enough confidence in people. I have more confidence in people than they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there are people that will fall for things like that, like the telemarketing scams. They have to be having success because they're still out there. We were talking about that. That's what causes, if a method isn't working, it will disappear. The natural selection, the evolution of it. No one's going to be buying it. No one's going to spend $300 on it. And so they'll be there 3 months without a buy. Let's just close the site.
Yeah, I get an email from my bank like once a month just reminding people what a scam looks like. And so if they have to do that once a month, it feels like people are falling for scams a lot.
Right. And that means that the bank is paying for it. The bank's trying to prevent their fraud department from losing all their money.
Yeah.
Let's cut this off. Let's stop the fraud happening.
Right. Would you say that you and I are a little bit smarter than the average?
I think more skeptical than the average.
Definitely more skeptical.
Smarter is a hubristic comment that you shouldn't
That's subjective.
do that. And we're not saying that.
Yeah. Are you smarter than a fifth grader?
We are thinking things probably more than other people are thinking them. So you and I definitely, based on the evidence that we've put this out, is we're trying to think about things more than most people think. And if there's someone that's just skating through life, and we talked about that person before, that type of people that don't really think about anything, you're waking up, you're going in your rut work and rut life, and you're listening to your rut programs, maybe you can be swayed by a exciting timeshare salesperson who's just trying to manipulate you. They're not giving you all the benefits and the right ways to use your timeshare. If you want to own a timeshare, you got to make sure that you're using it for these reasons. And if you don't have these reasons, you're going to be dissatisfied with it and you're going to try to sue us in 3 years. And we don't want that. So I want you to make sure that you're solid on the reasons you're using it. A real salesperson would give them the actual benefits and the actual features and benefits. I don't know that they exist in the timeshare world, real salespeople.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she did give a lot of good benefits. And if my family was already traveling like 3 or 4 times a year, or if traveling together was a much higher priority than other things, like if we were in the public school world where we've got spring break and fall break and summer break, and we're going to make the most out of those things, and so we got to go somewhere other than home, that's if our priorities were a bit different, it would be a really good deal. I think the vacation club idea that they had, it did seem like it would be beneficial if you're going to be doing those things anyway. If you're already spending $6,000 a year on travel anyway, then it makes sense. And if you expect that your kids are going to also be that kind of person,
if your life is going to be lived in the resorts, or in the what do you call Disneyland? What is it? It's a
theme park. Yeah, it's a resort. It's a
theme parks. Yeah, theme parks, resorts, theme parks.
Right.
If your life's going to be there, you might as well have a timeshare to get you connected to them.
Yeah.
The right way.
Buy in for life.
But if you're like myself particularly, and will never attend a theme park again in my life,
no,
it doesn't have any value to me.
All right. I guess I won't invite you to come with us when we
don't
go
invite me
next.
Yeah.
Never
next time
again.
You go, I don't need to go. I can walk around the streets here just as well as I can walk around the streets of Disneyland.
Yeah.
It'll be the same walk. Okay. Where were we at? We were at
awareness. Awareness is a good protection against having your mind controlled outside
and
of
it's
you.
just thinking about it. Keeping your thinking going as opposed to being pulled by someone else. And that kind of relates back to my dream too. If someone's standing in their boots trying to approach you, you don't want to be sold by someone standing in their boots that's trying to kick you with their principles, whatever they are.
Yeah.
That they're trying to persuade you with.
That's a good metaphor.
If they're aggressively approaching you, that's the wrong person. You don't want to talk to that person.
Right.
You want to talk to the person that's sitting behind their principles, sitting behind their boots, comfortably and, ensconced, I'd say. Have their boots comfortably on them, but they're relaxed, talking to you about the principles right between you.
Yeah.
So that's a valid sales point.
Oh, well, if I wanted to start having control of my subconscious mind, what do you think the first thing I should do should be? Not pay $400 to Silva method.
Right. You don't. What should you do, though? You should continue to learn about it. You can read a lot about the courses without having them. You could pick up the books.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a book. I mean, buy a $15 book.
Is there any particular topic you should start at? Like lucid dreaming, or I don't know.
I like John Travolta's thing and phenomena that we talked about, his statement. Well, what are you interested in? What piques your interest? Go there first.
Okay.
Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. because it's a large group of information. And if you choose to do the hypnosis side, find out what you can about hypnosis, you'll get to the end of that as far as you want to go. And that's the way that I developed my career too, where I professionally sit. And I was advised that when I was in college. He says, start in banking, but go there until you feel like you've gotten what you need out of it, and then pick the next thing.
Yeah.
So if you want an eclectic knowledge of the world, start out with hypnosis, or start out with mind control or with meditation, and learn what it has. Do as far as you want to go, and then move to the next thing.
Yeah.
It'll connect you. The $400, if you want a given path, the $400 does that, and they'll do it in a weekend, or they'll do it in a whatever the 38 or 580 seminar recordings.
Right.
You've got other things to spend your 10,000 hours on than becoming excellent at this.
This one thing. Yeah. Okay.
So mix it in your life. Just mix it in. Pay attention. I think that's the same answer. It's awareness
Pay attention.
and paying attention.
Just pay
Be
attention.
aware of it.
So is there anything that would be a waste of time, do you think?
In mind control, you asked that kind of in general, but could you waste your time trying to control your thoughts and your abilities? So my answer is no. There's nothing you could do that would be detrimental. Nothing you could do to act. Or what if you acted in negative ways?
Right. What if you went in hoping that you could win the lottery?
Well, even worse than that, hoping for something unreal. And that's where you're talking about mythology. If you don't want to just follow mythology and say, this is my God now.
Uh-huh. I'm
choosing this myth. Agamemnon. He's not, he is a myth. That was Homer.
Yeah.
I just want to go with that thing, and he's gonna be my hero. Or if you decided to be the psychopathic killer, take that psychopath path as bad as you can, as bad as I can be. Who was the guy, the rapist, pedophile Bundy?
I don't know.
What was his first name?
Ted? Bundy's first name is Ted, but is that who you're talking about?
Ted Bundy. Yeah, is that him?
I don't know.
Ted Bundy.
I don't know enough about him.
Okay. Or the guy, Dahmer, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Okay.
Right? Let's say you want to eat people. You just want to get them anywhere and eat them. He was successful. It wasn't success based on what we're thinking. So I'm thinking whatever your actions are, if you decide to go down the path that takes you more to the black, dark pits of despair of life, at least you're succeeding in those pits. Your mind control is still there. You're choosing where it goes. So with that, it may not, whether it's good or bad is only thinking. That's the famous Shakespeare.
Yeah.
There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So as you think about something and you act on it, that's success, that's achievement, that's advancement. You're controlling your mind a little bit more each time. What's the only way you could not control your mind is to live in delta state. Put yourself in a coma and do nothing. And then you have to deal with whether your spirit is actually doing anything while your conscious brain is in delta state, in a coma. And then you have those near-death experiences and after-death stories of everyone that while they're in a coma, they're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I think you can't not advance. But it might be another topic. Mind control. We're trying to control our mind to advance the way we want to advance, rather than be aware, have someone else advance us down the path to the slaughterhouse.
Wherever it is that, whatever their agenda is, we're not interested in living someone else's agenda.
Yeah. And so be careful which political party you listen to, but that's where we started here too. Whichever political party you're listening to, whoever you're watching on the video screens, clips, you're following their path, what they're saying.
They have an agenda. Yeah.
You've got to change it. So it's not like there's a right path and a wrong path. There may be, but I don't know that we can identify it. That's, again, our discussion on truth at some point. Is there a right path and a wrong path? That needs to be covered in that idea.
Okay.
And how do you find that for sure? Is it possible?
Yeah.
So every attempt to control your mind, whether good or bad, is a successful attempt. You're gonna move.
Huh. Okay. We'll see what I do with that, I suppose. It's intriguing still.
See if there's anything you want to look at next.
Yeah.
In your mind controlled thoughts.
Right. Right after listening to that podcast, I remembered Martha Beck and her interview with Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss interviewed Martha Beck, and she had a near-death experience when she was getting surgery, emergency surgery, and she had a near-death experience during that. That's also intriguing. It feels like a part of this mind control thing, like you're controlling your mind going into this subconscious place. Near-death experiences may be a subconscious experience as well. Like it's not a material experience. It's a metaphysical experience. Does that make sense?
Right. And if you can bring it back to consciousness. So it's a theta or alpha wave experience.
Yeah. And she was interviewed by Stephen Bartlett with the Diary of a CEO podcast, and she was also interviewed by a third guy. She's lots of interviews, but let's see. I feel like it was...
Well, because did she write a book? Is that what she's talking about?
Huberman Lab. Andrew Huberman also interviewed her. Access your best self with mind, body. She's a life coach now. She's coaching people to find joy and living the happiest they can be. And she's using this near-death experience as the pathway that she got to this thing. She wanted to feel that joy that she felt in that experience all the time. And it changed her life. I mean, she changed her life because of it. Her life is completely different because of that. So I'm going to listen. I've already listened to Tim Ferriss's interview. Now I'm going to listen to Stephen Bartlett and Andrew Huberman. That's a good 5 hours of interviewing. But I'm going to know Martha Beck so well.
Well, and she had to have written a book about that. She has to have something published.
She did write a book.
How to Find Joy That Lasts.
Yeah.
I think that's the name of the book. What's her books?
Right. And it's interesting, too. This is a completely separate incident from my reading of C.S. Lewis's book, Surprised by Joy.
Yeah.
I read that book, and I was intrigued by the whole joy concept, even though his book was all about his conversion to Christianity.
The spiritual side of it, strictly spiritual discussion.
Right, and that's the only place he could find joy. But this lady, she's finding joy in this other place.
Okay.
So, I don't know. It's the search for joy.
Well, and the other place, I'm thinking maybe it's just a different way to describe it. So that would be the thing. I know we talked about joy before, but
yeah,
it may just be a different way to describe it. Could it be the same source? So that's what you're looking into it now in your mind, is to try to figure out, is it the same source? It's just discussed from two different perspectives.
Right. It'd be quite surprising if I converted to Christianity because of my search for joy.
Because of joy.
Yeah, because...
No, well...
I've got ideas about it, It's not the goal. I'm not looking for religion. I'm looking for joy, right?
Right. And if you find that joy is ensconced in religion and that's the most comfortable, or it's more comfortable in mythology, I don't know.
Right.
You're advancing on your path just like everyone else is, and the more you think about it, you're not going to get worse off.
Right.
You're never going to be worse off by thinking about something and being aware of it.
Yeah.
So that's the path through mind control. Your mind is such that it's going to always move you positive.
Because I'm aware.
Everyone's mind is that way. Most people just don't want to use it. And if you start wanting to use it and wanting to focus it, then it's going to exercise. It's going to be exercise. You're going to be able to do more and see more and be more with your brain because you're using it.
Yeah.
And telepathy is just around the corner. That'll be cool when we no longer have to speak with words.
Right. Speaking is so cumbersome.
Yeah. And most of those near-death experiences, I bet Martha talks about that too, is on the other side. it was as though you consciously knew what was going on.
Yeah.
You didn't have to have a conversation.
Yeah.
But almost everyone in their near-death experiences talks about that telepathy as part of the experience.
Interesting. Well, I want my own near-death experience, okay? How do I do that?
All right. Listen, do it through lucid dreaming. I bet you can.
You think
I
so?
bet you can do it. Yeah. Give it a try. That'd be valid.
Okay.
You'll find the way to ask it.
All right.
Well, I think we talked through everything I wanted to cover.
Cool. So
I'm going to close this with a de-introduction. I'm going to unintroduce us.
yeah, a de-introduction.
We've had this conversation about mind, and this is just an example of what we discuss on a regular basis. Things that come to our minds that we want to expand on and build. We'd appreciate it if you would share with us, those listeners of this podcast and this conversation, share with us what your thoughts are. We're welcome the comments. It's
in our show notes. Go to our show notes for the correct
in the show notes
email address.
Okay. And so just look at try to find us somehow. Good luck, because we had that conversation before about safety. So we welcome you to join us in the conversation, and we are happy that you're here and look forward to talking with you next week on a topic which is...
It's a mystery. I'm going to come up with it. I might already have it, actually.
Okay.
I don't know.
It'll be...
I'm in charge, though.
The surprise. So for the next week, if you're planning along with us, be ready for a surprise and have your mind open for whatever great conversation we enter into.
Yes.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.